Is it possible to become a narcissist if neither of your parents are narcissistic? This is an awesome question. I'm going to give 3 different scenarios that came up quickly into my mind, and the last one might surprise you. The first scenario is maybe your parents or their parents aren't high on the scale of NPD, but they spend a lot of time with a family member or a caregiver that is. Maybe someone that grew up in a narcissistic family system has ties to their family, and that child is spending a lot of time around people that are on that scale, and they can develop those tendencies. And of course, a lot depends on the child's temperament, but close association with those kind of dynamics can affect a child. We know that children are sponges. Second scenario is if a parent overvalues their child, and it might even come from a good place. It might come from a place where I never had anyone praising me, so I'm gonna make sure my child is praised, but it becomes a polarized opposite of what that person experienced in their childhood. It's when things are done in extremes that cause a problem. Last scenario can be hard to digest, but I've seen it and I understand how it can be created, okay? So if you were raised in narcissistic dynamics and maybe you had a long-term relationship with somebody that was high on the scale of NPD, and now maybe you have children and maybe you never did the inner work to heal. Maybe, let's say there's a 0, +5 is narcissistic, -5 is the extreme of codependency. This is a hard truth to digest, but if we're at that side of -5 on codependency scale, which is the highest extreme of codependency, and we don't do the inner work to heal, we can actually show up and create narcissistic dynamics in people that aren't necessarily narcissistic. Now, let me explain that. For example, let's say you have a child, right? And you still have wounds from a narcissistic relationship. So some of those wounds are beliefs like, if that person is mad, it's my fault. Or if somebody's mad, that means I'm bad. And now you have a child, those beliefs can kick on and you can live in those beliefs. And so what do? You do everything to make sure that child is never mad, which means you don't put down boundaries, you don't discipline. When the child has tantrums, you cater, you placate, because that was the role you were forced to be in narcissistic family systems. And if you don't heal, we can recreate them. And the flip side from the codependency, and we're treating our child as if they're above us, right? You're angry, that means I'm bad. That means I have to do everything to make you happy. That's automatically creating unhealthy dynamics that can lead a child to wind up developing traits that are narcissistic. They may never reach that full-blown NPD because maybe they have empathy, maybe their temperament doesn't allow for that, but they will have narcissistic traits. And that's why it's so important to not just learn about the narcissist, but also to make sure we do our inner work to heal.